Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, the Public Information Officer for the Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you by Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the Indiana State Police Alliance. For more information about the Alliance, you can visit their website at www.indianasfinest.com. Again, thanks to the efforts of Tom Trial, you're also looking at us. Maybe you didn't catch us on the radio, but thanks to Tom's efforts, he puts us on YouTube every week. So if you're seeing us, it's because of Tom Trial. My guests today are two fantastic, longtime Capitol police officers from the Indiana State Police Capitol Police Department, Officer Scott Alexander and Officer Dennis Bennett. Thanks for coming, guys.
You're welcome, Sergeant. Good morning.
Mm-hmm. So the motivation for this show is you guys do great work downtown on a daily basis that a lot of people just don't know about.
Right.
I think a lot of people just don't quite understand what the state Capitol Police do, and so this is an opportunity. So take us back, Scott. I know you've been around for a long time, but a little bit of history. Where did this all start, and how did it evolve?
Well, what people may not realize, there's always been at least a Capitol security. When the State House opened in 1888, they hired one security guard. He was the security guard and the custodian. We have since shrugged off the custodial responsibilities.
So you don't mop floors.
And just do police work.
Yeah.
From there it progressed. We became an official security department. So we were Capitol Security. And in the early years, we did have one vehicle. It was a station wagon that said Capitol Security on it that the officers drove around in. And then finally, because when we first started out in 1888, there was just the State House. And then in 1961, they built the Indiana Government Center North building, which some people may be familiar with. And so our role started to expand because there were more state employees, there was more property to cover. So they expanded the security. And then in 1991, legislation was passed that the Capitol Security actually become a fully fledged police department. So we do have full police powers throughout the state, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just as the state police have, just as the troopers have. And so from there, we've just grown. Prior to becoming under the umbrella of the Indiana State Police, we were actually under the Department of Administration. And then it was decided, hey, it would probably be best for a law enforcement agency to be under a law enforcement agency. So it was decided that in 2002, July of 2002, we officially became an umbrella under the Indiana State Police.
Very cool. And Dennis, what maybe people don't realize is to become a Capitol police officer, it's the same as any police agency in the state of Indiana. You have to go through an accredited academy. And fortunately, you guys go through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, which you were telling me was the third largest in the country. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I found that out when I went through the academy. Yes, there's only 2 other academies throughout the United States that's any greater than the Indiana State Police. I was just mentioning to you earlier, if you go through ILEA, you've got the golden ticket.
Yeah, well, that's great. And so you do go through that, and then you come back and you start your patrol. So what are some of the responsibilities, Scott, that a day-to-day, what's a day, we'll start with the day shift. What's a day shift look like for a Capitol Police officer?
Okay. Well, one thing I like to tell people is that we just don't patrol just the State House and the Government Center North and Government Center South. People don't realize we have outlying properties too. We have White River State Park and all the properties on White River State Park, the Idle Jorg, NCAA, the State Museum, as well as the Indianapolis Zoo. And although it's the Indianapolis Zoo, it sits on state property, and the zoo leases it from us. So any emergency or any police action that they need response to out there, then they call on the Capitol Police. But a typical day shift, so we have 3 shifts. And typical day shift is the officers are responsible for the safety and security of state employees and visitors on the complex, as well as executive protection for the legislators and judges. We also have officers who are stationed at the Indiana governor's residence. So we have officers at the governor's residence as well. So we're in charge of over $1 billion worth of property. Wow. And I always like to tell, especially the new officers that come on, I like to consider especially the Government Center complex as a community within a community, because it really is a small town when you have all these state employees and especially the legislator. And we can have anything that goes on in a small town go on the state complex. You know, we can have thefts, we can have, you know, any number of things happen. So we're there for that, and we respond to those incidents.
So you guys have a patrol element where you have police cars and police vehicles, and you're out patrolling around these properties, but also a foot patrol.
Correct.
But if I remember right, you guys have detectives and other things investigating crimes.
Right.
So
We have detectives. We have canine officers with
Yeah.
bomb dogs. We have a bicycle patrol that operates in the spring and summer months. So yeah, we're a fully functioning law enforcement agency. So yep, that's what we do.
As the shifts change, I imagine that the responsibilities change. And Dennis, I know you work in the evening shift. So what does an evening shift? 5, 6 o'clock, people start going home. The buildings start to empty out. So do the responsibilities change at that point?
Just slightly. When we come in, we may get a slight briefing about 1,500 hours or 3 o'clock from the day shift to what's going on, what may need to be taken care of. We may find ourselves at an ECP area for about 2 hours or so. But after that, it's either drive patrol or foot patrol.
Okay.
And the areas in which Scott mentioned earlier are the same areas that the afternoon shift have to do with. And I also have to add, too, that recently in the past, I would say about 8 years or so, we picked up the Indiana War Memorial.
Okay.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, which is
a busy place.
Especially
in the summertime, you see a lot of people out there. Yeah.
So there's a Capitol Police officer in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Okay, very cool. And of course, there's a midnight shift as well that offers all those same elements. But also the governor's residence. You guys, have to drive down up on North Meridian a little bit. You have people stationed out there as well.
We do. Yep, 24/7, 365.
So another responsibility.
Yeah, and in addition to the executive protection detail that the governor has through the trooper side, the Capitol Police provide the executive protection for the residence itself.
Yeah.
And occasionally you'll have people that have mistaken the governor's residence for a park or something,
Sure.
and they'll drive up. So our job is to politely say, this is not a park, this is where the governor lives. So
Sure. Well, that's very, very interesting. So, every day is a different challenge for you guys, and you work in this huge complex. But how important is it to build relationships with those that work there every day so that they not only recognize you, but trust that their safety is in your hands? The relationships you build are important, right?
Oh, very much so, sir. Your uniform as a police officer only explains half of who you are. So the other half is when you open up your mouth and communicate with people. We don't want people to come down to the Capitol building and the government centers and just realize that it's just a compound of some sort and we're just here to, mess up your day. We're not doing that. We have information to give you, and we will make sure that your business is taken care of if you come down for any business of any sort.
And one of the hardest things about, especially when the session's in, is parking down there around the State House. But also get a significant amount of thefts from those parked vehicles. So what are some tips you guys can offer to somebody who's going downtown, parking their vehicle in a state garage or along the road or whatever? What are some tips you have for somebody to maybe avoid becoming a victim of one of those thefts?
Yeah, that does happen. And I was the Capitol detective for 15 years. So what I can say is, don't leave your valuables in the car. Don't leave anything where somebody's going to look into your car and say, "Hey, I'd like to have that." That's the biggest thing with state employees and visitors alike. Sometimes they're in a hurry and they'll leave briefcases or computers or purses, and that's just eye candy to a criminal. So that's the most important thing. Be aware of your surroundings. Remember where you parked. If you're not used to coming downtown, or especially used to parking in a parking garage, remember where you parked. We do have frequently people that come up and say, "I forgot where I parked," or
Right.
I think my vehicle was stolen. I said, "Well, it probably wasn't stolen. You probably just aren't used to being here, and you parked in a spot you don't remember."
Yeah.
But the main thing is just be aware of your surroundings. Remember where you parked, and don't leave valuables in your vehicle, and especially don't leave it unlocked.
Yeah. So another thing that I know you guys deal with often is protests. When somebody decides they want to hold a protest or some sort of gathering there on the state property, you guys have to adjust your manpower and monitor that, not just for the safety of everybody. It is for the safety of everyone, but it's important that you protect both sides of whatever's happening there. So tell us about what kind of responsibilities you have when somebody wants to hold something there on state property.
Well, it depends on what side of the property, of course. The security is dealt with. Either on the north end of the property or the south end of the property. Most of the time it's the south end of the property. And we just mingle amongst the crowd that's there to make sure that it's peaceful. you have more than enough right to voice your opinion on state property. We just need for you to do it calmly in a peaceful manner. Is there a process somebody needs to go through if they're gonna organize a gathering? Is there a permit or a process that they have to go through ahead of time, or do they just show up? I think there is.
Yeah, there is. If you're going to have a large gathering or a sizable gathering, we request that you do get a permit for that, and that can be done through the Indiana Department of Administration. They control all the either protests or rallies that go on out there. And with that said, a lot of times during the legislature, you do have people that come in, and it is the people's house, and we are a constitutional republic, and people do have that First Amendment right. And as long as that right doesn't infringe on anybody else's right, then you're free to do that. That is your constitutional right. And like Dennis said, we're just there to monitor that. Our job is not to agree or disagree with what you're saying, because you have a constitutional right to say it, and we want to allow you to do that in a respectful way. So that's another facet of our being on the complex. Okay.
And so, the day-to-day, obviously, the security and safety of everybody there, the patrol function. I know that the homeless population often convenes in that area, and you guys have some specifically trained people to deal with that homeless population. Tell me a little bit about what they do.
Go ahead, please.
Well, we do have considerable homeless population. We don't. I think probably second shift or third shift maybe runs into them more because they're out and about more. But we do have officers who are trained in homeless outreach. So if we do come across someone, we'll talk to them. Hey, how long have you been homeless? Do you have a place to stay at night? So, especially, a couple weeks ago when it was just freezing cold. We want to make sure that these people have a place to go and a place to stay. So we do have officers that are trained, and they liaison with IMPD and other local law enforcement agencies. So if we have somebody, we can call and say, hey, I've got a homeless person here. Can you come and talk to them? Since you're specifically trained, and they can give them direction on where they might be able to stay or where they can go get a meal. So yeah, we do a lot of homeless outreach,
and that's a great resource. And one place downtown that seems to be pretty happening in the summer months when it's warm is the Canal. You guys have an aspect of patrol on the Canal as well. Is that right?
Correct.
So what are some of the crazy things that people think they can do on the Canal, but should think twice because they're going to have to deal with you guys?
Well, obviously you cannot swim in the canal. Okay. You cannot dunk your little one in the canal. It's
even if it's
not
really
a wading
hot.
pool.
Yeah.
You can't drive on the canal. We've had people that have come down and try to drive on the canal.
Right.
No, that's a no-no. But yeah, especially in the spring and summer months, it's a very popular place, especially with people visiting from out of town. They always want to know where the canal is. So we do try and have officers down there, both on foot and on bicycle. So it's a safe place to be. And overall, the canal I think overall, especially in the Mile Square, Indianapolis is a fairly safe city overall. And we're just there to make that happen and to make your visit more, what's the word I want?
Enjoyable.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add, too, that it's just so amazing to realize that Indianapolis as a city is international now. We have run across people, or at least I have run across people that were from Tibet.
Yeah.
I didn't think in my entire life I'd ever meet anybody from Tibet.
Yeah.
So I love being an ambassador for Indianapolis because it's a good job.
What a great point. And we want people to know, and you want people to know that it's safe. We want you to come downtown, bring your family down to the events, enjoy the canal, enjoy the other events that happen downtown, because you guys are working around the clock to make sure that they can do that safely. And that's an important message that people have.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So, again, thanks so much for coming. We've been talking with Officer Scott Alexander and Officer Dennis Bennett, both longtime veterans of the Indiana Capitol Police, doing great work. You have been tuned in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by Cops for Kids, a subsidiary for the Indiana State Police Alliance. About 20 seconds here. We just want people to know the Capitol Police is a full-fledged law enforcement agency. You are not security guards, although you do act in a security role a lot of times to ensure that safety for people. But otherwise, you guys are often hiring. So we want people, if you're looking for a law enforcement career, that's always an option. So again, thanks for
Definitely.
coming, guys.
Very
Appreciate
much
you
so.
very much.
All right.
Great
Yes,
show
sir.
out.